everyone. So today we're going to be talking about the area of simple shapes. The area of a rectangle is going to be the same formula as the area of a parallelogram. So the area is base times height. Now the height is the side that is perpendicular to the base. So if we go ahead and look at the parallelogram, your height is this length here, because that's the one that's perpendicular to your base. So for the area of a parallelogram, it's also base times height. However, for a rectangle, let's also talk about perimeter. Perimeter is when we add all four sides together. So the perimeter would be 2 times b plus 2 times h. And for a parallelogram, same thing. The perimeter, we add 4 sides together. So the perimeter would be 2 times b plus 2 times s. So that the height would not be involved in the perimeter formula for a parallelogram. Now let's look at the square. The area formula for a square is going to be s times s, which would be s squared. But if I were to do the perimeter, it would be s plus s plus s plus s, which is a 4 times an s. And then a trapezoid, we're not going to do perimeter on a trapezoid, but again, perimeter is just adding all 4 sides together. The area formula of a trapezoid is going to be 1/2 times, times the height, which the height is going to be perpendicular to one of the, or actually both of the sides. So 1/2 times the height times the length of your base 1 plus the length of your base 2, so the sum of the bases of your trapezoid. And then lastly, or not lastly, because we also have a circle, the next one is a triangle, but there's so many different types of triangles. So we're going to look at each individual case. So for the area formula for a triangle, it is 1/2 base times height. Now, in a right triangle, your base and your height are the legs of your right triangle, and it doesn't matter which one's labeled H or which one's labeled B as your base. But remember, the legs of a right triangle are your base and your height. Now, in an isosceles triangle, your base is the one that is not congruent to your legs, and your height actually bisects. It's perpendicular and it bisects the base. So keep that in mind. Now in an equilateral triangle, same thing. Your height is perpendicular to one of the sides, and it also bisects the base. And then lastly, on a triangle that looks like this, your height may be drawn outside of your triangle, but it is still perpendicular to the base. But keep in mind that your base is only this portion here. It does not include the dotted line. All right, and then lastly, a circle. For a circle, we need a radius or a diameter. But the area formula for a circle is pi r squared. And so if you have the diameter, you would need to divide by 2 to get your radius. Now we already talked about circumference, but let's review. Circumference is basically kind of like the perimeter of a circle. That is 2 pi r. If you're ever asked that again, just review that. All right, let's get started. So number 1, we have a parallelogram. And so with a parallelogram, the area formula is base times height. So your base is this 12.9, and the height is the side that's the part that's perpendicular to your base, so the 7.1. So now we're just going to multiply those together. And we get that our area is 91.59 inches squared. Okay, number 2. This is a trapezoid. So my area formula is going to be 1/2 times my height, which is the 16, times the sum of my two bases, which is 19 plus a 27. So my area would be a 1/2 times a 16 is an 8. A 19 plus a 27 is a 46. So an 8 times a 46 is a 368 centimeters squared. All right. Number 3 is a circle. My diameter divided by 2 is 13. That's my radius. So in your homework, you're going to be expected to leave your answer as an exact answer. So for this, we're going to do area is equal to pi r squared. So pi times 13 squared. And so a 13 squared is a 169. And if I ask you to leave it in an exact format, we don't want to do a 169 times a pi. We just leave it as 169 pi as our answer. And if I ask you to round, there is a pi button on your calculator. So if you do 169 times pi on your calculator, then you would then round your answer. But I'm going to be asking you for exact answers in this lesson. So let's look at the next one. We have a triangle. So my area formula is 1/2 my base, which is 15, times my height, which is that 21.3. Sorry, I ran out of room. There you go. All right, so my area is going to be 1/2 times a 15 times a 21.3, and we have a 159.75 meters squared. All right, moving on to the next one. Here we have a square. So my area formula for a square is my side length squared. So I have an 8.5 squared, which comes out to be an area of 72.25 feet squared. Next problem is a trapezoid that's turned sideways. My height is that 5, and my bases are the 7 and the 13. So my area formula is 1/2 times my height of 5 times the sum of my two bases. So if I do a 1/2 times a 5, I get a 2.5. A 7 plus a 13 is a 20. So a 20 times a 2.5 comes out to be an area of 50. Oops. Next one is a semicircle. So what we do here is the area formula of a circle is 1/2. The area of a circle is pi r squared. So since we're dealing with half a circle, we're going to do 1/2 times pi times 17 squared. So I wind up with, let's do the 17 squared first. And then I wind up with a 289. I'm going to tack on the pi, and then times a 1/2, just we can write it all over 2. And that's a feet squared. So that's my area. One. And then my next one is a parallelogram. And in a parallelogram, my height is perpendicular to my base. So my height is actually this 16.1. It's perpendicular to this base here, which is 11.8. So I have an 11.8 times a 16.1. And that means I wind up with 189.98 meters squared. All right, so now we got a couple of word problems here. So a triangle with an area of 45.5 centimeters squared has a base that measures 14 centimeters. We want to find the height. So my area formula for a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So I'm going to fill in all my numbers here. So my area is 45.5. My base is 14. And we want to find the height. So now we're going to just solve this equation. Well, I can do a 14 times a 1/2. That leaves me with a 7. So then I'm going to divide by 7 on both sides to get that my height is equal to a 6.5 centimeters. And that's it. All right, the next one, a parallelogram with an area of 160.5 has a height that measures 7.5. We want to find the length of the base. So the area formula of a parallelogram is base times height. Filling in all my numbers, my area was 160.5, and that is equal to my base times the 7.5 for my height. So if I divide by 7.5 on both sides, a 160.5 divided by a 7.5 gets me that my base is a 21.4 inches. All right, the next problem, a trapezoid that we have on the base measures of 23 and 29 has an area of 390, and we want to find the height. So my trapezoid formula is 1/2 my height times the sum of my bases. So let's fill in all our information. I have my area as 390. I don't know my height. I need to find that. My base 1 is 23. My base 2 is 29. So we're going to add the sum of our bases here. So I wind up with a 390. 390 is equal to a 1/2 times the height that I'm trying to find, times a 52. Now multiplication is commutative, so I can actually multiply these two together. So I wind up with a 390 is equal to a 26 times my height. And so now dividing both sides by 26, a 390 divided by a 26 gives me that my height is 15 kilometers. All right, down to the last problem now. We're going to find the diameter of a circle with the area being 389.13. So my area formula of a circle is pi r squared. And so I'm going to fill in all my information. All right, so here's where that pi button is going to come handy on your calculator. We're going to do 389.13 divided by, and then hit the pi button. Rounded, we would get about a 121 is equal to r squared. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take the square root of both sides, and we get that r is about an 11. So if r is 11, the diameter then would be 2 times that 11, which is 22 meters. All right, that brings us to the end of this lesson.